Prepare to step into a world where imagination knows no bounds as we present Legends, Loot, and Lore. Join your hosts, Andrew and Joe, the dice-rolling dynamic duo who will guide you every step of the way into the realm of Dungeons & Dragons. From crafting narratives to character creation, this podcast is your gateway to becoming the hero of your own story. Whether you're a new adventurer or a seasoned traveler seeking new insights, Legends, Loot, and Lore has something for everyone. After the episode, visit our website at www.legendslootandlore.com for even more resources and exclusive content. And if you're as passionate about this adventure as we are, help support our quest at legendslootandlore.supercast.com. Embark on this odyssey with us and let the echoes of ancient tales guide you toward a destiny filled with limitless possibilities. Roll for initiative, because your adventure begins now.
Welcome, adventurers, to another thrilling episode of Legends, Loot, and Lore, the podcast that takes you on an unforgettable journey through the realms of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm your host, Andrew, along with Joe, and we are absolutely delighted to have you join us today for part 2 of our special series, Everything You Always Wanted to Know About D&D But Were Afraid to Ask. So grab your favorite spell book, sharpen your blades, and get ready to embark on a knowledge-filled adventure with us as we delve into the heart and soul of D&D. Join us as we embark on an epic quest together. Let's roll initiative and dive headfirst into part 2 of Everything You Always Wanted to Know About D&D But Were Afraid to Ask. This will bring up my next question, Joe. And you can talk about this one because we've been doing this since the beginning. Can I play D&D online?
Yes, you can actually. So the crazy thing about this is, obviously 2020, March 2020, the pandemic came in, everybody was home for 2 weeks. Nobody could get together and play in person. And the
Everybody
whole
was home
world
for 2
shut
weeks?
down.
How long? I was home for longer than 2 weeks.
Well, okay. It started out as 2 weeks. Give me a break. I'm building suspense and a narrative here. I'm a DM. This is how I do things. So, and then, we were all home forever. And like people were turning and the amount of resources to play online were severely taxed, and they started growing in leaps and bounds. Now, the truth of the matter is, without any online resources officially created for D&D, my group of players and I, which of course included Andrew from the very beginning, we've been playing D&D online since March of 2019. In fact, I made a joke this March. We celebrated our 4th year as a D&D group. It was actually kind of humorous. But from the very beginning, the people who I was playing with, 2 of them, they were a married couple. They had kids. There was no way that they were going to really figure out a way to sneak out on a Friday night or a Saturday night once a week, and everybody else has got other plans and everything. So we were all aware of each other. Well, actually, the truth of the matter is, I was actually friends with all these people individually, and then brought them all together to play D&D. So it was like, hey, give up your Saturday for the next 2 years to come play a game with a bunch of people that you've never met before, or I hodgepodge the system. I was using Skype at the time, and I had a program, I think it was called Map IQ, where I would reveal, it had a fog of war feature where I'd reveal different portions of the map. And then I had a whole separate little camera. I set up a table and had the combat with figurines from a battle game that I have.
Oh my God. I forgot about the map camera.
The map camera. Yes. How many times did I drop the map camera?
Oh my God.
Because I was trying to readjust it. I was fiddling with the light sources. I mean, like literally no official resources for D&D. You're going to go out there and you're going to find something called Roll20. Roll20 is an amazing program that allows people to play D&D online. You can buy pre-made modules and stuff like that. It's great. I didn't feel like spending the money. I had known about it briefly before I had started playing, but I wasn't even going to get into the idea of telling everybody, hey, you all got to spend $3 a month or $5 a month to do this, because all these people are brand new. They didn't know if they were interested in it. I didn't know the details, so I hodgepodged this system. And we played on Skype. Somewhat of a shaky video system, but it worked out. And as we went along through the years, we now use Discord, and I use a program called DM Helper to do the maps, to do the combat map and everything. So you can find a way. Yes, you can play completely online. Our one friend lives in Virginia right now, and there's no way she can show up to a weekly game. So yeah, boom, we play online. People who have kids that I know that play, no, you stay home with your kid, you just play online. It's a beautiful way to do it. The in-person game, don't get me wrong, there's nothing that replaces that aspect. Playing in person changes the dynamic of it, because when you're online, there's always the you're talking over each other because of slight delays in the conversation because of on Discord or whatever. But the in-person camaraderie, where you can kind of whisper to the person next to you while it's the person on the other side of the table's turn, it makes a difference.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I have never done. I have never played. Well, I guess we've played in person.
We did some one shots.
We've done some one shots in person, which I think is a lot of fun. But I've never played a full campaign in person. It's always been online. But I think there are some tremendous resources out there now. Yeah, Roll20, DM Helper. So if you're running as a dungeon master, there are some tremendous pieces of software out there that can help you out as a DM. D&D Beyond is a great tool for building your character, managing your character, keeping track of all of your stats as far as that's concerned. D&D or Wizards of the Coast is now working on a very immersive online platform for gameplay, which looks really, really interesting. I think they're in alpha at the moment, from if I recall correctly. But it's crazy, and I mean there's the argument about are they trying to monetize D&D more? We're not going to get into that whole argument, but it's a really cool platform. But it depends. Like,
it's no argument.
What's that?
I said, there's no argument. It's what they're doing, but what they're doing with trying to monetizing it is creating a beautiful interactive online forum to play the game.
And that's great. Like, if that's what you're into, awesome. Like, I love the as they call it, the theater of the mind. I love the imagination aspect of it. So seeing everything kind of visually and how it plays out, I think is interesting. But I just love using my imagination to describe what happens, to describe the actions that I'm taking, describe how I defeat the enemy. All that is a lot of fun. So I really enjoy that aspect of it. And I still get that in our online games as we play on Discord and things like that. But it all depends on your level of interest in how involved you get with playing it online.
And to be honest, truly the only part of it that you truly need a map for is the battle, the combats. The rest of the game can truly be done theory of the mind, because
theater of the mind. Theory of the mind would be interesting. We can get Stephen Hawking and talk about the theory of the mind.
Are you gonna go dig him up with me? Come on.
I mean, hey, I could play a necromancer in D&D.
So you dig up a future physicist. There you go.
Yes.
So, but the idea being, though, still is that it's a the theater of the mind. When we started doing this and I started revealing maps to them as they walk through castles and stuff like that, back when they first started playing D&D, all of the content was homebrewed. Nobody had anything, so everybody had to imagine everything. Now these maps that we have now are more convenient, they're more helpful, but really I shouldn't be able to show you, hey, there are two corridors over here. And then you can also just look at the map and say, by the way, there's also those two doors back there that we didn't check. If you don't check them, that's on you. That's why you need to take notes. Hey, there were three doors there. We only went down corridor number one here. And like that's where like the theater of the mind is more interesting
Mm-hmm.
and you can miss things. But the map is, it's a little bit of a cheat in some ways if you depending on how you look in your play style. We have a more relaxed play style than some people would.
I mean, it all depends. Like some people will build out on on a physical table. They'll build the dungeon and
Yeah,
walls with
that's
walls
true.
and everything. So I mean, it all depends on how you want to play. But let me ask you this question. So we've used this term homebrew a couple times. So is there another question? Is there a set storyline or campaign to follow? Or can people create their own adventures? And I think we've already answered this somewhat. Like I was talking about DM's Guild, which is a tremendous resource for user created content. So there's two options. Wizards of the Coast makes a ton of source books, adventure books, for you to do all sorts of kind of pre-built adventures. They give you the monsters that you encounter. They kind of walk you through from beginning to end the whole adventure that way. There is a lot of user generated content on websites, and that's available out there that you can download. You can create your own adventure. There are guidebooks and source books on all the different monsters that are available in D&D that you can use to put in your own adventures. You can create your own monsters. There are people that just specifically create monsters for D&D. So there's all sorts of ways for you to I'll say it again, choose your own adventure. Do you want to use a traditional source book and use that, or do you want to create your own and use your own imagination and go through it that way? So I mean, Joe, mostly we've done mostly the source books from Wizards of the Coast, but even those can be modified. You don't. It's not. It's not written in stone. It's written on paper. It's not written in stone. So what happens? So for example, if we've had a larger party, or maybe the one night that we're playing, somebody in the party can't make it that night. So instead of encountering four orcs, maybe you encounter three or two. You can modify the encounters and things like that to match the ability level of the party. So if you have a bigger party, a DM can throw in more enemies or things like that. So I think there's all sorts of ways to go about what source material you use. You can use the Wizards of the Coast source material. You can modify that source material. You can find other source material out on the internet, or you could create your own. So another question is, can I play as anything I want? What are the limitations to a character? And I think the options are almost limitless as to what type of character you can play. There are numerous races, and what they're now referring to as species. So different races or species that you can play. There's a range of classes that you can choose from, backgrounds you can choose from. You can write your own backstory. So there's a lot of flexibility to the character. But what I would highly recommend is, when you are developing your character, talk with your DM, because the story that the DM is going to run you through, and who else is going to be in the party, will all come into play on how you develop your character. You don't necessarily want 5 half orc barbarians, you could just storm through and just crush everything, but it's not necessarily the best as far as role play is concerned. So you want to really work on creating a well-rounded party. For me, I mean, some of the things I've enjoyed doing are I've created. I keep talking about my Tabaxi character. I forgot when we were talking last time. I created the Haragon, the rabbit, who was a magician's rabbit who got struck by lightning and received all the magician's powers. So I mean, there's I've played regular wizards. I've played. I'm playing a half vampire at the moment. So there are, if as you add on all these source books and things like that, you get access to a lot more races and things like that. You can, even through D&D Beyond, you can purchase, a single race. So if there's something that you want to play, you can purchase those items individually. So you don't have to purchase a whole source book for $20-$30. You can, for like $2, you can buy a race and add that into your character sheet. So there's a lot of the options are almost limitless, but you also want to keep in mind who else is going to be in the party, what kind of story you're going to be telling. Because we played with Joe, we played Rime of the Frost Maiden, which takes place basically in an ice covered world. And a lot of the enemies that you were facing have resistance to cold damage. So if you've got a wizard and all your spells do cold damage, you're going to have a really hard time, defeating those enemies. So you really want to be aware of kind of what storyline you're playing and who else is going to be in the party when you're crafting your character. Joe, what are your feelings on character creation?
Yeah, so I think you nailed it all down pretty well. There really is limitless options to stick within the bounds of the official D&D. They're like you said, is all on D&D Beyond. You can buy specific races and little penny packets. Um, but even with consulting your DM, always anything outside the normal bounds, consult with your DM. um, there are plenty of homebrew classes and races out there that you can go and look up online. People will create their own adventures and they'll sell their adventures, and they'll create races and classes that you can use for playing as characters. So throughout this whole process and everything that you do, um, you really need to consider that is that whatever you decide, consult with your DM. Um, but it really is limited by whatever is out there, official or unofficial. One of the things that you tend to want to do when creating a party is you want to have, it's a typical motif. I want to have your fighter, so you got your main attack and your meat shield. You want a rogue in case you need to break into something. You want a cleric so you can heal yourself or heal the party or something like that. And you want a ranged option, magical option. So you get a wizard or a sorcerer or something like that. And that's your typical build around a character. But I've always liked the idea that you don't go that way. DMs, depending on what they want for their adventure, they will be like, hey, we already have a rogue, try to make something else. Or they might be like, we have a rogue, do you mind playing two rogues in the same party, or two clerics in the same party? There are trade-offs to every race and to every class, and we'll get into that when we get further into the races and the classes. But there are all these things. It's all up to the DM, but I like it when you end up with like two of the same class in the in the fight, in the party, because it's kind of like, well, how do they act differently from each other? And then as a DM, you can kind of play off each other from their different personalities and contrasts while they're basically the same type of character. And you know, it really is up to you, limited by your DM. If your DM is telling a story that DM's like, "Hey, I'm going to run a new adventure," but he doesn't tell you anything about the background. Well, maybe he should have told you that it was a land only of dwarves, so you need to make sure your character's a dwarf. Whatever it is, run everything past your DM. Don't spend the time creating the whole character and then going to your DM and say, "Here's my character. Is this okay?" Start off and be like, "Hey, here's my idea. and he'll let you know if he needs to, or he or she will let you know if you need to exclude or include any aspects specifically for his campaign.
That's a great point. So let me ask you this question, because after you've created your character, you've gone through all the battles. I think another big question that comes up for people is, what happens if my character dies? What do I do? Am I out of the adventure, or can we hire a necromancer and raise my character from the dead? What happens? So what happens if your character dies in battle?
When your character dies, there are two levels of death, really. Indeed. Well, I take that back. There are three levels of death in D&D. The first level of death is when you fall in combat. You technically fall unconscious. Everybody's like, "Oh, I'm down," or "I'm dead." It's actually
that's when you run out of hit
and
points. When
correct.
you run out of hit points, you fall unconscious.
Right. And that's when you enter a time where you need to make saving throws. Saving throws, you roll the D20. You roll an 11 or higher, you're okay. A 10 or higher, you're okay. You roll a 1 to 9, you're not okay. You need 3 rolls, doesn't have to be all in a row, but you need 3 rolls of a 10 to a 20 in order to be safe. If you roll 3 1 to 9s, your character actually dies. If you roll 10,
not exactly.
well, yeah, there's the difference between the 1 and the 20. I'm going to get to that.
Okay, I was going to say
No. If you roll a 10 to a 20 3 times in a row, your character is unconscious but stable, meaning you're not bleeding out. You roll the 1 to the 9, you're actually bleeding out. Now, the exception to this rule is the 20 and the 1. The 1 counts as 2 fails. And the 20 actually lets you stand back up with 1 hit point. The idea of the 20 being that you kind of were able to gather yourself up and stand back up and go back at that combat one more time. The idea of the natural 1 is like, yeah, you got a critical wound inside you. You're bleeding out and your blood's pumping out to the point that you might need to be, have somebody stabilize you before you die, which somebody can do. You can stabilize a player who's down, but you can also heal a player who's down. We'll get into the details of that later on. But you can
Hence
heal a
wanting to
player
have
who's
a
down
cleric.
and they can stand back up.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's why you want a cleric in the party or someone with someone with a healing spell or a potion of healing on them that can help you out.
It's always interesting when there's no cleric in the party or the cleric's already down and everybody's like, "Has anybody got a potion? Has anybody got? Actually, I have this weird healing spell. Do it."
Do something.
So there you can also do a medicine check on somebody, something we'll get through, and you can stabilize them. But anyway, so that's the first level of death. The second level of death is you fail your saving throws. Your character is dead. Now, in the official rules of D&D, there are several ways to resurrect a person who is dead. Specifically, there are several spells that you can cast. One of them is like, if you do this within the first minute after a character dies, they're resurrected and they're fine. I believe that one's called Revivify. The other ones have various time limits that are on them, but basically anything after the person's been dead for a week, that's it. You're done. That's when you've reached the third level of death, which is you're dead, you're gone, there's nothing you can do. The only exception, too, because there's always an exception, is the wish spell. The wish spell is a very interesting spell. It literally allows you to do anything in the game. It is super powerful, so the DMs are very rare to ever give them out, but it is a possibility. Most adventurers don't need to get to that level of a game. But let's say you've reached the point where your character is completely dead. Well, now what? Does that mean you have to stop playing in the game? Usually, no. Usually, that's the time that you go and talk to your DM and say, okay, when's the next logical point the characters will interact with a new group of people that I could have a new character come in? And the answer to that question usually is anytime. Very frequently, your party is going to be moving through towns and villages, and you could happen to pick somebody up on the random point right then and there. Or I so talking about 10 towns, the Rime of the Frost Maiden, that adventure had been going on quite a bit, and you had already switched out your primary character for the Harrigan, and Kat was getting ready to switch out her character for she was going to be a drow, not a drow, she was going to be a Duergar, a death cleric. And I was going to have it that her primary character, which was a Furbolg cleric, was going to return to the nature because she was getting tired of all this fighting, and you guys were going to rescue her from the Duergar fortress that you were at, and she was going to join the party. I had twisted the storyline. This is something Andrew had talked about before, where you don't need to maintain the actual storyline of the pre-written adventures. You can always modify it to however you want. And I was going to modify the storyline to include a subtext where she was convinced that somebody was controlling her king, and the king, who was being controlled, threw her into the dungeon, and you guys were going to rescue her, and she was going to help you only because she was truly going to be saving the kingdom. But the point is, there are numerous ways that your DM can find to reinstitute you as a player, as a new character into the game. And there's even going to be some circumstances where there are times that the characters get help from NPCs in combat. Maybe the DM will let you take over an NPC given the circumstances. But just because your player dies and goes through all 3 levels of death doesn't mean you have to stop playing in that game. And you can watch different Dungeons and Dragons playthroughs, and you will see that people will get quite emotional over losing their characters because you spend so much time with them and playing with them, and then you realize I'm about to lose this character in my story, my character, and it's an emotional moment.
It certainly can be. I and it's funny, even not necessarily when a character dies, but when we start playing a new adventure and create new characters and things like that, I always tend to miss those older characters because I really have quite a fondness for them after playing them for months and sometimes close to a year. It kind of becomes part of you.
Part of your own family, if you will.
Absolutely.
We were playing an adventure with our friend Chris. My friend Chris was DMing us, and we had defeated the bad guy, a dragon or something. But there was somebody had to do something to sacrifice themselves to be some kind of whole. I forget the exact instance, but the whole point was somebody had to be sacrificed in order to seal this evil away. And I had my character, who was a little bit of a brash half giant wizard, step in and be like, I'll do it. And it was really weird because after I did it, I was like, yeah, he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not coming back.
Nope. The characters become part of you.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap up today's episode with another one of the most asked questions. And again, I hear this all the time from people when I talk about Dungeons and Dragons. What's the object? What is the object of D&D? Do you win? Like, what is the, how do you finish the game? And for me, I think the answer is there's no, with the kind of pre-built stories that, yes, there is a storyline. So you go from start to end, but I don't think there ever is. The object is never to win the game. Yes, you can finish the adventure. You can defeat the big bad evil guy, but the journey for me is the most enjoyable part. It's the it's the character development, it's the interaction with your other players, it's the fun, the adventure, the role playing. All of these things are really what makes D&D a lot of fun, because some of these games can go on for years, for months, for years, depending on if it's a homebrew or what. There's almost sometimes no end to particular campaigns. So it's really, and we've been playing for what, roughly 4 years now, different campaigns and things like that. And it's never about, there's always another adventure to join. So it's never really about finishing. It's always about the journey that you take for your character, and what you learn about your character, what you learn about yourself throughout the journey, that I think is the most important part of D&D. Building friendships, creating memories that are going to last a lifetime. That's really the best parts of D&D for me. Whatever happens, if your character lives or dies, or what happens in the end, doesn't, is not I would say is irrelevant, but is not the main focus for me. It's really about the journey that you take, both for your character and yourself. At least that's how I see it. Joe, how would you say, what is it? I mean, theoretically, yes, you can win a campaign, but what
Yeah,
what would you
took
say
that
is
you
the,
took that a little
what's the
farther than
overall
I was
objective?
planning on.
What's that?
Yeah, so you took that a little farther than I was actually thinking of on my response. So my initial response was, why do you read a book? Most people will tell you to read a book to learn to have the story, and that's absolutely correct. But you read a book to get to the end of the book, and now you know the whole story. And it's like, but how many times have you read a book or a series of books and said, "Damn, that was so good. I wish I could forget it and go back and read it again." And I was going to agree with you on that fact that it's not so much the completion of the story, which is always amazing, it's always great, it's always nice, but it's that adventure. And it's like they say in life, getting there is half the fun. Well, you know what? Playing the game is more than half the fun than winning the game is. I mean, it's about that adventure. And then yeah, to take a step out from the actual playing of the game and saying, what is the point of playing D&D? You look at it and you say, it's like, why do you sit down and play Monopoly? Why do you sit down and play chess or Scrabble or any other of 1,001 different board games that are out there, or video games that are out there that you play online with your friends and stuff like that? What's the point of any of this? Our whole lives as human beings, some people, not everybody, but I would say a majority of the human race are social beings. We thrive on social interaction. Some like less social interaction, some like greater amounts of social interaction. But for the vast majority of us, we all like social interaction. And this is another vehicle to make that social interaction, where you can get together with people of like-minded interests and like-minded thought processes and say, let's go do something crazy together. But you don't actually have to do something crazy, like you hear about these people like, hey, we're all going to go skydiving together. That's a really cool idea. Y'all have fun. I ain't getting up in no plane and worrying about no parachute. But here I can talk about, hey, let's go raid this orc camp together and we'll all have fun doing that. And there's no risk of death or injury. I think that's what it's about. We're social people. We like to interact with people in general. And we don't want to have our lives stagnant in this, you know, yeah, I didn't do anything else today. I want to do something. I want to do it with friends, and D&D is another vehicle for that.
I'm going to disagree with you on one point, and you said it's a group of,
Just one?
just
That's a rare.
for this time. Um, when you said it's a group of like-minded people, because I don't think that's the case, because you think, even if you as people, as players, are maybe like-minded, your characters are all coming to the adventure for different reasons. Some some may be motivated by the deity that they follow. they've got some noble cause that they're trying to pursue. Maybe some are after the money. Maybe some are after there's a promise of a reward. So maybe they're after a reward. Maybe they're running from something. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why this party may be coming together for this single cause, for this single adventure. So, I mean, you think about like Lord of the Rings, everybody's got their own kind of motivations for why they're doing this and why they're coming together. So while I don't necessarily think you have to be like-minded to come together for this adventure and have the journey together.
Yeah, I was thinking more about the actual players. You're absolutely right. For the player characters, there is no like-mindedness required. And in fact, if you watch the D&D movie, and if you watch just about any D&D movie, no matter how ridiculous it is, you'll find out that every single character's motivation is different. And that's a really great point. As much as we can all get along as players, the characters, they don't have to get along. And that's a whole nother thing we can talk about in character development, about creating little bits and pieces of not animosity, but testiness between the characters, just to make it a different dynamic.
Absolutely. We can definitely talk about that as far as character creation is concerned. But again, it's there. You don't have to. There is no. Well, you're talking. We've talked a lot about us playing chess. The objective of chess is to win the game. Here there's multiple objectives. So it's whatever you want to bring to it, and again, have fun along the journey. And with that, we come to the end of another captivating episode of Legends, Loot, and Lore. We hope you've enjoyed delving into the depths of Dungeons and Dragons with us today in our exploration of everything you always wanted to know about D&D, but were afraid to ask. Remember, the world of D&D is vast and ever evolving. Keep exploring, keep creating, and most importantly, keep rolling those dice. We want to extend a heartfelt thanks to our amazing listeners. Your support, questions, and stories truly inspire us. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Legends, Loot, and Lore on your favorite podcast platform, and be sure to leave us a review. Your feedback means the world to us. Stay connected with us on social media, where we continue the conversation, share additional resources, and even announce exciting giveaways. Until next time, fellow adventurers, keep chasing legends, seeking loot, and reveling in the boundless wonders of lore. May your dice rolls be ever in your favor. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Legends, Loot, and Lore. We hope you've enjoyed immersing yourself in the realms of legends, uncovering hidden loot, and delving into captivating lore. But the journey doesn't end here. For exclusive content, behind-the-scenes insights, and access to our community, visit legendslootandlore.supercast.com. There you'll be able to support the podcast, where you can join our Discord server for lively discussions and subscriber-only content, and connect with fellow enthusiasts. Stay connected with us on Instagram and Facebook at Legends, Loot, and Lore to continue on the quest. By following our social media channels, you'll be the first to know about upcoming episodes, bonus content, and exciting announcements. If you've enjoyed your time with us, we kindly ask you to rate and subscribe to this podcast. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue producing captivating episodes and embarking on new quests. Thank you for being a part of our journey. We're thrilled to have you by our side as we unravel the legends, uncover the loot, and delve deeper into the lore. Until next time.